I was a signed member, registered player as a junior in the first season after the war, 1946-47. But I don't actually remember playing, really getting into it until I came out of the Air Force. I actually played cricket, football and a bit of badminton, as well as table tennis. The church I attended at the time had a team in, and in the first year after the war they were runners-up in the First Division as it was then. And the two people who taught me to play, although I don't remember much about it, I just remember the fact that Cecil Hull, who was a pen holder, had come out of the Air Force, and Tommy Atherton was, I think he'd been a town team player. His brother certainly was. And he'd just come out of the army. And they were both players, both played for the church team, and both helped run the youth club. One with the name change, Moore Park Methodist Youth Club, Jacobaeus. We only changed the name when Moore Park Church closed and we lost the use of the premises as a youth club. I can't answer directly, but somewhere I have from the 1950s an invoice from the league, and it's something like 2 shillings and 6pence per team.
In new money?
12.5 pence. Oh, well, it has, yes, because the league now is being funded by grants from sports associations, from the national sports bodies, whereas years ago the only income from the league was made up by what the players paid into it and an annual raffle and the adverts in the handbook. Yes.
Annual raffle?
Yes. Oh yes, we had an annual raffle. And a bane of contention that every club had to sell so many tickets. The time matches finished, probably not much different, because at Moore Park you used to play in an upstairs room at the back, and you'd be right in the middle of a rally when all the lights would go out, and that would be the caretaker pulling the main switch telling it was time to finish.
How many matches didn't you finish?
Oh, we always finished, but he always flashed put all the lights out just to tell you that he was ready to go home. It's changed greatly, because now you've got like the Avenham Centre, and you don't get the club atmosphere. You go in, you play your games, you come home. Whereas when they were works teams, you got people who work together. You go in for a game at night, and the other team were invited onto your premises, and you treated them like visitors. Like CCA, another works team which has gone, you always went into their canteen for a brew, and probably scones and cakes and what have you.
What about, this is something I noticed from badminton, if we played away, not necessarily at home, if we played away, we always went to the pub afterwards and we'd have a drink and you'd down together, then you'd go home. Table tennis, you play your games, you've gone.
Yeah.
Has that always been the case?
No, it was earlier, particularly with the works teams where, he says, come on, let's get the game finished, it's 10 to 10, we're going to miss our pints. I've been involved in the running of a club since 1952-53. Then I went in the Air Force 55-57, and I've been involved with the running of Moore Park and then Jacobaeus since.
How did you get involved?
I've always been secretary, probably because nobody else would do the job at the time. I don't think it has greatly. Once the fixtures come out, you inform your teams of the fixtures. or the team captains of the fixtures. You've still got to scrounge for the money to pay to the league, unless you have a club treasurer, that's his job, but you've still got to bully him into doing it. I don't think there's much change in a secretary's duties. Well, the secretary should know the quality of all his players, and I think at times you would, if you didn't put them in ranking order, the players would soon tell you that I'm better than so-and-so, or so-and-so's better than, not as good as I am. And it could lead to friction, and in one case it did. Because at Moor Park, with two players, one was coming up and the other was going down, and we decided to switch them. And the better player, original better player, said, if you move me down in the ranking, I'm packing up. So we said, right, we are moving Steve up. And that player said, I'm not playing anymore.
Do you think that's how it should be done? Ranked on ability rather than social, or...?
It should be on ability, purely and simply, yes.
So you didn't stand any messing with that, did you?
No.
It's quite ruthless in the way.
Oh, yes. Yeah. One player's still playing in the league, and he thanks me regularly for throwing him out of Moor Park Club.
No names.
Oh, no names. No names. I was talking to him last week. He's still playing, and he thanks me regularly every time he sees me.
Why did he thank you? Or was he being...
Oh, no, he's been very serious, because he realised he wanted to play table tennis, and he was so unreliable at Moor Park that we threw him out. And he went to another club, and they took him on, and he realised he had to knuckle under, and he's still a very good player. Not greatly. It's probably slightly better now than it was, because I can remember one or two naughty players, put it that way. There's still quite a bit of bad language goes on though underneath.
Has that always been there, the bad language?
There's always been a bit of bad language there, yes. Yeah, some more than others. Some players more than others. But I think generally they got rooted out. No, I don't think the attitude of player to player has changed. Adults don't like getting beaten by younger players, although it's inevitable as the youngsters improve. And I remember one in particular, again no names, but it was at Bamber Bridge Motor Transport in one of the competitions, and he comes over here, cough, fancy getting beaten by a bird. And of course everybody laughed at him. He just got beaten by a girl. And he was one of the good town junior players.
Junior player?
He was a town junior player, and he wasn't very chuffed at getting beaten by a bird. It's much younger now. Generally, I would say there are far more younger players playing. Whereas when I remember playing, they were all older players with one or two youngsters. Like me playing with Jack Atherton. It's come out of the forces. All the team had come out of the forces, but you get one extra youngster who they bring along with them, and I think more now there are 3 youngsters in a team, whereas at one time you get 2 adults, 2 older people and 1 younger player who they will be showing rather than coaching. It will be a case of watch the adults how they play and pick the game up as you go along.
When do you think the youngsters have really started to come through then?
With coaching.
So what year would that be?
Last 10.
Last 10 years?
Last 10. Not much more, I would think, than the last 10 years, yeah.
Which is a healthy thing?
Yes, definitely healthy. When I started, it was just a case of, this is how you play, these are the shots. But as for coaching, very little. It was just a case of practice. I don't think there was really any thought went into the academic side. It was just a case of you hit the ball back over and this is the best way to do it. How we've done it for the last 20 years.
So there was no structure to any coaching?
There was no structure to coaching, no.
When did that come in then?
No. Oh, it must have been in the early 60s. I think when I went on one of the first coaching courses. No, Jim Clegg had been to, we got Jim down to the youth club to do some coaching because we felt that that was the way to go.
What was this?
And then afterwards, it'd be in the early 60s. I would think probably the early 60s. Because I came out of the Air Force in '57. It was shortly after when we got cracking on. We got a good youth club team up. I think we could see that this was the way to go. Coaching was coming into other fields, and we knew that Jim, and I don't think Tony at the time, Jim certainly was doing coaching, and we got him down to the youth club one night.
Jim was doing coaching in the early 60s?
He was one of the early coaches, was Jim, yes. Yeah, very early in the coaching field, yes.
And since the 60s?
Well, I went on a coaching course, and that was when I started using my forehand, because I had to pass my coaching qualifications, because if I couldn't show anybody how to use a forehand, it wasn't much use doing it.
And where did the coaching take place?
I went to Runcorn for one of my courses.
And when you came back, was it like...
It was in your own club. It wasn't specific to any other. But I was also helping out at Central Youth Club in town. It was known as the Basement Club. And I used to do a bit of coaching down there.
Okay, and when did it change to the type of structure we've got now?
It would be when the league realised that it was necessary to keep... I think it was when the numbers started falling away that...
when would that be?
It'd be early 80s, I had to guess. When you dropped from that 14 divisions and it started... And it was a rapid fall-off. It was a very rapid fall-off.
Did teams just sort of like...
Well, all the works seemed to withdraw facilities, and clubs who were using pub rooms, they just lost the facility. There was a team in Leyland, a club in Leyland, they had two teams, and I'm trying to think where they played. It was in a pub, and it just went. The facility just, I'm sorry, you can't have the room.
Do you think the coaching is or do you think the kids appreciate the amount of coaching they get now? Or?
Some do.
Because there's also going into schools, there's a lot of school going.
Yeah, well I go into 2 schools.
When did that start?
Only about 4 years ago.
What triggered that?
Something to do with this Sport for All. There was a national Sport for All movement. Sport England, Sport for All, whatever it was.
And how did you get involved in that?
Well, the league knew I was a qualified coach.
What level?
And they put us into schools.
What level are you?
3.
Level 3? It's only one more level to go.
Yeah.
Just as an aside, do you think coaching has helped you as a player or hindered you?
It's helped me. in the shots, but not when I'm playing in games, because I tend to play coaching shots, and when I've been coaching I tend to be too slow. You haven't got the reflexes. It upsets your reflexes but gives you the shots. I used to have, and unfortunately it got stolen out of my car, I had an old net cast iron frame, and it had 5 holes in, and they were 6.5, 6, 5.5, 5. Is that 5 holes? Because they couldn't make their minds up as to what height the net should be.
So the net's not always been?
The net has not always been at 6 inches or 152 millimetres as it is now. And I'd love to have that set of posts. The expedite rule had to be brought in, because at one time you get 2 players pushing the ball at each other, and I think the record for 1 point is something about 30 odd minutes. So they had to bring a rule in to limit the length of time which each game took, and you're now on a time limit. I think I still prefer the 21 up.
Because?
You've got time to think out your serves. A sequence of 5 serves. And then you've got to concentrate on your opponent's 5. Whereas 2 and 2 and 2, I don't think you've enough time to work out a variation of serves. Whereas with 5, you can probably do 5 different serves in one sequence. Whereas when you've done 2, you concentrate on your opponent's 2, and you have to think back to which 2 you've just used. You probably don't get as variation of serves as you would if you had 5 in a row. They've changed greatly because you've got to move now. You didn't have to move as much in those days. Because with the equipment, particularly, you couldn't hit the ball as hard. Although you could position it and direct it and put a bit of backspin on it, and even probably a bit of topspin. It wasn't, the rallies were much longer because you're angling for positions. Whereas today it's much quicker, much faster game. Yes. We always used to get them in either PSD, which was Preston Sports Department, Marigold's PSD, which was one of the few shops in Preston which sold sports equipment, or Willie Cunningham's, which Willie Cunningham, the Preston North End player, who opened a sports shop after he stopped playing with Preston North End. And I think those were probably the only 2 sports shops in the town where you could buy sports equipment, and you could buy anything from football, cricket, rugby. They were sports shops.
That was then. Where do you get your stuff from now?
Mail order. Usually from, I'm trying to think the name of the place. Bat Workshop, it used to be called. Table Tennis Direct. When I break them. Or when they're so perished they need changing. Bad.
That was a very straight, bad.
Very straight answer.
Why so?
Because some people are winning because of their bat, not because of their skill.
How would you answer those that say it's a skill to learn how to use the bat?
It may be, but a bat certainly gives an advantage. I call these funny rubbers. You get a good topspin player, the ball comes back, he doesn't know what's on it because of the rubber on the other fella's bat. If everyone had the same bat, it would be skill, not equipment. Horace Logan was one, and Arthur Scarisbrooke, probably Arthur Scarisbrooke. He was like a barn door, pen holder, dead bat, long experience, an absolute barn door.
Everything came back?
Everything came back. Well, not everything, but 99%. Forget swear words. Concentration, by far. Loop drive.
Why?
It's the one which wins so many games. If it's hit hard in the right place, it won't come back. Forehand drive.
Any particular reason?
Because up to me coming out of the Air Force, I didn't use forehand at all. I was purely and simply a backhand player, having been taught by a pen holder. So I tended to swing the bat across the backhand like a pen holder would do. I didn't use forehand at all, and only when I started coaching did I manage to acquire a forehand. Backhand drive. It was the only one I could use for the first 10 years. The standard has greatly increased.
Really?
Yes. I reckon that some of even these youngsters who are playing now could have beaten county players from the 1950s. I've no doubt in my mind. Deepdale and Griff. They had their own private rooms where players could go any time, any day to practice. It was originally for a team, and the first two played the first two of the other team. The second two played the second two, that's numbers 3 and 4. And you played 2 doubles to make up the 10 games. And the reason that was scrapped was the fact that some teams were playing number 1 and number 3 as the first 2 players. And of course the number 2 was winning against the other teams 3 and 4, and it was felt that it was an unfair advantage. A lot fewer players enter now. Mind you, that's probably because at one time there were 14 divisions. And it was because of 14 divisions, you have far more players to enter. Now you've only got the 3 divisions. You've not got the number of players anyway.
Did they used to play it all on one day?
Yes. Bamber Bridge Motor Transport, where Jerry Stokes was transport manager, I think. And he used to get the whole of the canteen. And you could probably 8 tables up. And it was played right through from early morning, 9 o'clock at morning, right through to 5, 6 o'clock at night.
And they managed to get them all in?
Yes, apart from the finals, because they played the finals as a separate item so that people could go and watch the finals the following week. No, I've never been good enough.
Would you like to?
I suppose, yes. Represent the town would have been an honour, yes.
He's the second person that said that, but it's hard to get people to play for the town teams these days.
Well, it shouldn't be. You should be proud to represent your town or city as it is now. The individual.
Because?
It's an individual achievement. It's a personal achievement.
Okay.
I'm very unlikely to do it.
What's that one then, Howard?
It's the Vulcan Table Tennis Club's runner-up trophy. And just before this competition, the Vulcan Locomotive Works, Newton Le Willows, where I was working at the time, had an interdepartmental competition, and the drawing office, of which I was a part, we won the Institute Sports Cup. And as a result, I was invited to play in the Works handicap, and I was put on scratch. One lad was put on 15, and in the first round, a town team player from Warrington was drawn against this lad, and he turned his back and walked out because he said he was no way he was going to win on a 15 handicap. I played on, got through to the final, and came against this lad with a 15 handicap. I don't know which of the first two games I lost or which one I won, but it went to a third end, and I got it back to 20 all and then lost it. So I'm very proud of that, and the fact that I carried on and only lost by 2 points to a player who, a town team player from Warrington, walked out of the competition.
Never say die. Never say die.
Never say die.
Okay.
I'm very proud of that. Probably getting back Jim Clegg's best serve in a competition. He served one of his real good tricky serves, and I just belted it back past him, and he just looked at me and he said, "Hey, that was my best serve." I said, "We'll keep doing it." Probably being thrown off the committee. Well, it wasn't thrown off the committee, it was a committee reshuffle, and I was pushed out of the job which I thought I'd done efficiently for the previous 8-10 years. The handicapping system, probably.
For the
handicap events. Originally it was done on a total points over the team for the whole matches. It wasn't each match so many points for each game. It was done, say, 120 points advantage to one team over the other, and you played all your matches out and then totaled up at the end.
So why do you want to go back to that?
Well, if you've one weak player is going to lose 3 games, whereas the average over the 3 would be the handicap for the whole team.
So you think it makes it more even across the team?
Makes it even across the team. Seeing youngsters come through to beat me.
Masochist.
Oh, we've had some. I've been involved with some very good youngsters, and to see them still involved, or most of them, not all, but most of them still involved in table tennis. Nothing better to do. I've got to keep fit at my age. I've got to keep out of mischief. And it's probably one of the better ways of keep moving. Stop me seizing up completely. Apart from the fact my eyes are good, I don't always see the ball. More often than not I see 3 balls, but still I hit the middle one with the middle bat.